I think we've got beyond the point of selling Lewa as a philosophy or a personal dream. It's now a conservation goal set in stone and really conservation on a roll. My name's Ian Craig and I'm the Executive Director of the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. Lewa was bought by my grandfather in the early 1920s and as a cattle ranch, and he ran it as a cattle ranch, gave it to my parents in the early 1950s. You know, Lewa's changed enormously over the last 30 years. From a cattle operation, we were essentially just being brought up. We were brought up on a farm. We were farm kids, the same as many others in the world. Working with our parents, they were running the cattle. We were part of the team on that. The last 30 years have seen this incredible change of focus from cattle to wildlife. You know, what you find here today. And Anna Mertz came with a proposal to establish a rhino sanctuary. It was when rhino numbers were plummeting in this country. She had seen what the situation with rhino was in the country, and it was her that really pioneered the specific, dedicated, focused protection of black rhino, and she pioneered that on Lewa. Since those early days, Lewa's really moved on apace. It's now an established wildlife sanctuary, and it's an effort to prove that wilderness and wildlife will be an asset for us all for the future.
I'm Richard Moller. I'm the Wildlife and Security Coordinator at Lewa.
It's really the presence of a large number of security personnel that contributes to the lack of illegal activity within our boundaries.
Lewa, like any other wildlife reserve or national park, could become subject to poaching and illegal activities. And it is thanks to our highly trained and motivated security service that such activities are kept to a bare minimum.
Just to give you an idea, there's 120 personnel just employed in the security on Lewa Wildlife Conservancy, and that includes rhino surveillance, your armed teams, of which there are 3, your radio room, your gates, etc.
You know, essentially the radios here link us all as an organisation across an area of 300, actually more, 600 square kilometres. And at the flick of a switch, we can speak to community members 30 kilometres away from here. They can call in an aircraft, they can call in tracker dogs, they can call in reaction teams. We can put out community tracker teams north of any poaching incident. If the community pick up tracks of a poaching gang coming into the area, as soon as they cross that grey line, we know about it, and not days later, minutes later. And so, again, it's deterrent, and people just think twice before they're coming in to an area where they know there is this level of communication. We have a schools program where we have 5 schools that we actively support, and by that I mean they're beneficiaries of the marathon that we run here. They receive 20% split between the 5 schools of all the proceeds raised from the marathon. That's building classrooms, blackboards, teachers' houses, buying books. Through the generosity of various friends of Lewa, We provide a midday meal to 3 of the schools that we support to all the children. We're now supporting bursaries to tertiary education, to university, to technicons for further training. And some of the young guys coming out of that and young women coming out of that are now coming back in to employment within the Conservancy. The basic model of what we're working towards with our adjoining communities is to provide all the logistical support to develop wildlife as a resource within their land. Lewa's relationship with the communities is entirely repeatable. We have a couple of lucky starts in that we have historical relationships with our neighbours, which are based on trust. And so there's an interaction there that has allowed us to work together as a team. Part of the policy of KWS and the government, and it's our philosophy as well, and a very strong part of Lewa's philosophy, is that Lewa doesn't need to own land. Lewa needs to support wildlife as a development tool.
Well, it was very difficult for linguistics to start. Actually, when Ian came with the idea, he did approach our elders and taught them about the plan, how he can help us to conserve and do this business, the tourism business. It was very difficult actually for people like us. I myself, I was one of the very difficult people because I thought that Ian is a white person and he's coming, he's trying to convince our elders, they are not learned. He has a plan maybe to grab the piece of land from the elders, and we were very difficult to be convinced. It took him almost a year, and what he did a lot of things, like taking the difficult people to different places in Kenya, like Masai Mara, and show them what sort of business he's trying to let us do. So in Wesi was very difficult to start.
So essentially our community program is schools, supportive education, development of community-related wildlife programs, reduction of conflict between wildlife and humans, and security. We put obviously an enormous amount of effort and resources towards maintaining security within this whole area. Lewa as a self-contained entity financially is fine. It's self-sustaining, our tourism supports it. But the real responsibility and I see opportunity of Lewa is our support to maintain the original migratory corridors of much of the wildlife north of Lewa and to work with the communities within those corridors. And for us to capitalise on that opportunity, it's going to need the external support indefinitely. We're here with moral responsibilities to give this, I think, this earth our very best effort. And we find ourselves here in a position where we can really contribute to the development of Kenyans. From a world perspective, Lewa is an incredibly valuable place. It holds 25% of the world's population of Grevy's zebra. It's a catalyst for development across an area 100 miles long by 60 miles wide, where, although I say it myself, we are key partners in the development of this area of Kenya. And so the point of the exercise here is not just the development, not just the moral responsibility, but also to establish a future for this wildlife here. There are many cattle ranches in this world. There's plenty of cattle. There aren't plenty of Grevy zebra. And we have a real responsibility to find those zebra a future, to find these rhino a future, and to combine that with Kenya's population and the community here.